Sometimes people want to know why I like doing theology, and I can answer that question very simply. I like doing theology because it's cool. Now, to help you understand why I think it's cool, I want to just point out a couple of things that are true about theology that, to me, render it not just cool, but actually the coolest thing there is. And the first thing I want to say about theology is that it's actually really hard. How hard is it? It is the hardest human intellectual discipline. It's not just the hardest human intellectual discipline, it's the hardest intellectual discipline. And so by that I mean to include also non-human minds, whether they be alien or angelic or demonic. I'll take it even further. It's not just the hardest intellectual discipline, it's the hardest possible intellectual discipline. It is not possible for there to be a harder discipline than theology. Why? Well, think about it. What makes something hard? Rocket science. We always point to rocket scientists and think, well, I'm no rocket scientist, but wow, he's so smart. He's like a rocket scientist. What makes rocket science so hard? Well, because there's a whole lot of math involved, right? The material itself, the things you have to understand to be a rocket scientist are very, very difficult. That's actually kind of an old thing. I don't think that rocket science is probably the hardest thing that we do anymore. That was back before we went to the moon. I think maybe quantum physics, maybe some people might say, is the hardest thing that we do right now. Why? Because quantum physics is asking very difficult questions that are more philosophical than scientific about the fundamental nature of things and how they interact. And it's answering those questions in ways that are deeply counterintuitive, that don't line up with how we've experienced the world to be and how we believe the world to be. Well, there is no subject matter that could be harder than an infinite God. Because no matter what else you think of, there's an end to it. There's a fact of the matter about quantum mechanics, and even though we may not know enough about it, nevertheless, there's a finite number of things to know about that. Any other discipline you choose, there's a finite number of things to know, but there's an infinite number of things to know about God. But that's not it. It's not just because God is so big that theology is so hard, although that's part of it. It's also the fact that God is fundamentally different than everything else. For when I ask about the fundamental nature of quantum particles or the forces that drive rockets and calculating orbits and all these other sorts of things, I'm asking about other creaturely realities that are similar to me. They're co-created with me. We make a world together. The laws of physics and thermodynamics and the mystery of life and all of these things are a part of the world that I inhabit. They're dynamics that I participate in and that I am governed by. And so they're not above my nature, they're just like my nature. But God isn't like that. God isn't created. God isn't finite. God didn't come into existence in time. God isn't one of the things in the world alongside of other things. God is in the world, but not of the world. And that makes God different than everything else that I know, and different than anything I can bring to it, and his nature is above my nature such that my intellect actually isn't capable of understanding certain things about God. So that makes theology the hardest discipline there is. So if you like really hard questions and really challenging questions, this is the epitome. There's no tougher questions than you're going to find in theology. But at the same time, theology is super easy. It's so simple that even a child can grasp it. And that's the genius of it. You don't have to study for years and years and years before you can finally begin to get some tiny sense of what this thing is that we're talking about, which might be the case with quantum mechanics. Right off the bat, from a very, very young age, as soon as you can talk, you can start to know true things about theology. And so it's really easy to get into it. The on-ramp is gentle. But at the same time, once you've gotten on, that highway will go on forever. And you can go deeper and deeper and deeper and get more and more complex. And it's always going to open up new vistas for you. I find that really, really exciting. Well, what is the goal of theology? I think the goal of theology, what it's trying to do, ultimately, is to make us better disciples. To make us better lovers of God and better lovers of our neighbor. And as a Christian, that's what I want to want. I don't know how much I want it on a given day. I certainly don't want it as badly as I want other things all the time. That's one of the reasons that I sin, because in that moment I want something more than I want to be a good lover of God or my neighbor. But even when I don't want it, I want to want it. I want to long for the things that God tells me that I should long for. I want to long after the things that are good and beautiful and true and whatever else is transcendent. I want to allow grace to make me into what I was made to be and what I can be if I will just get out of my own way. And that's what theology is about. So I have found in my life as a Christian that theology is one of the most powerful tools I have for advancing in my sanctification, for advancing in my ability to worship in various types of settings, advancing in my ability to understand how to come alongside my neighbor who's hurting, how to stop hurting them myself, how to accept the help of others when I'm in need of it, how to accept the grace of God when it feels like I shouldn't get it. And then what's the result of theology? If you do that, if you buy into it and you dive in, what are you going to get out of it? Well, I think you're going to get primarily two things out of it. You're going to get a richer understanding of the world. For example, Jesus, on Easter, he rose from the dead. And now his body isn't quite like the body he had before. It's a different kind of body. And we get to see it doing things, right? The disciples are locked in a room, hiding, and Jesus just shows up. Now, the traditional account of this that medieval Christians give is that miracle whereby he was able to be present with them in a locked room was the miracle of two bodies existing in the same place at the same time. In essence, they think that Jesus walked through the door, and while he was passing through the door, his resurrected body and that door existed in the same place at the same time. If that's true, if that's where our bodies are going, that's a preview of the new physics. That means that some of those laws that we think are laws now aren't laws. They're just tendencies of the world as we know it. Yeah, it's repugnant for two bodies to occupy the same space at the same time in this dispensation, but it's not the truth of bodies as bodies that says that, which means that there is more, there's deeper intimacy, deeper bodily intimacy possible than we would have recognized from the world that we live in today. Again, that body is able to bear wounds that were inflicted upon it before its death. And yet it's also able to look so different that people who knew him well in life don't recognize him in death. He's able to teleport, to transport away from the disciples of Emmaus. He breaks the bread and then boom, poof, he's gone. He's not ascending to heaven in that moment. The ascension is not until Ascension Day. He goes somewhere else. We see this sort of thing happening with him all the time. So his body then can be a way of giving us hints into the type of physics that we may expect to encounter in the next life. But not just about the next life. Again, if that's the destiny of material creation, if it's destined for that kind of subtlety and agility and luminosity that we see in the body of Christ, what does that tell us about it even now? In what ways can we see in creation as it is now the seeds that are going to germinate and turn into the glorious creation that we get a hint of in the resurrected body of Christ? That's just one small example. So theology can lead us to a richer understanding of the world, but I think what I just said also demonstrates the other thing theology can really give us, which is it ushers us into deeper wonder. And when we wonder more deeply, we worship more deeply, because it is out of our wonder that we worship. And that's why I think theology is so cool. That's why I love doing it, and that's why I hope you will get more excited about diving into it. However excited you are now, I hope that enthusiasm will continue to grow because there's so much more to see. I hope you like this. If so, give us a like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.